This is my new console, the Nintendo Switch 2, and the 2 here means you'll get just 2 hours of playtime on a single charge. I've been using this console as my main device for about a month now. At the moment, I am playing the updated version of The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. I'm deliberately taking my time with the main story and focusing mostly on side quests, just to stretch out the joy of these games as much as possible. I really love its atmosphere and the overall experience it delivers. I've also played Mario Kart World a couple of times, but did not dive too deep into it yet. I'm saving that one for later. Now this video isn't going to be a full review of a Switch 2 like I usually do. Instead, I'll share my personal impressions and feelings about this console, compare it with my Nintendo Switch Lite, and most importantly, try to help you decide whether or not the Switch 2 is worth buying. Because let's be honest, this is a relatively expensive console, and the games for it aren't exactly cheap either. Let's start by unboxing the console and checking out what comes in the box. I bought the console bundle with Mario Kart World. Yes, it's the Chinese version, but the only real difference compared to the standard European version is the power adapter plug. Inside the box, you immediately see the console in separate pieces, the updated Joy-Cons and the screen unit. Everything is individually packaged, which I really appreciate. The Joy-Cons snap onto the console very easily, and the whole construction feels super thin, solid, and nice to the touch. Let's set the console aside for a second and take a look at the rest of the box contents. Here is my game activation coupon, already redeemed. Next is an HDMI cable for TV connection, Joy-Con straps, which I have never used, and a European plug adapter kindly included by the seller. There is also the gamepad grip, which I don't really use either, a power adapter for both the console and dock charging, a USB Type-C cable, and at the bottom, the dock itself, which lets you play on your TV in 4K resolution. That's a pretty generous package, and it's one of the reasons why so many people love Nintendo. By the way, you can buy the Nintendo Switch 2 on AliExpress for 468 euros with fast and free shipping. And to get an even better deal, I recommend using my promo codes for an extra discount. You'll find the link to the console and all the details in the description box. To be completely honest, I've mostly used the Switch 2 as a handheld console. I've only connected it to a monitor twice, once right after buying it and again now, just for this video. I prefer using it as a personal gaming device. I even took it on a trip recently, and it turned out to be very travel-friendly, even without a special case or screen protector. The Joy-Cons detach easily and fit right into a backpack pocket, and I just tossed the screen into my laptop compartment next to my tablet. Now let's compare the two consoles. Unlike the Lite version, the Switch 2 doesn't have a traditional D-pad. Instead, it has 4 separate directional buttons. They press softly and have a nice click to them. All the buttons feel great and have a slightly matte texture that I really enjoy. The analog sticks on the Switch 2 are a big upgrade over the Lite version. On the Lite, they feel stiff, unresponsive, and kind of toy-like. The bumpers are pretty similar on both consoles, but the triggers are very different. On the Lite, the triggers have a small amount of travel. On the new console, there is no travel at all. They work more like clicky buttons with a micro-switch feel. And before we continue, please like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. This helps me promote the channel. Also, you can click the bell icon so you don't miss any new videos. Thank you for your attention. Let's continue. A lot of creators have criticized Nintendo for putting an IPS panel in this new console instead of an OLED. I actually already shared my opinion on this over on my Telegram channel. By the way, you should follow me there. I often post updates and thoughts on new tech. So yeah, I've said this before. I'm super sensitive to PWM flicker on OLED displays. It often gives me headaches, which is why I am really happy that the Switch 2 has this IPS screen. It reminds me a lot of the screen on the ROG Ally, vibrant, sharp, and just great for handheld gaming. But the best part, I can play for hours without any eye strain or headaches. Some people say this screen looks dim, but I honestly haven't noticed that at all. Maybe it's because I mostly play indoors and not in direct sunlight, not sure. I did take the console on a trip and play it on a train during the day, with sunlight coming through the windows, and the screen brightness was more than enough. Now, if we're talking dim screens, the Switch Lite definitely takes that crown. At maximum brightness, my eyes start to get tired pretty quickly. That's why I usually keep it at medium brightness and mostly play in the evening or on cloudy days. So, all those negative comments about the screen, I see them more as nitpicking. In real everyday use, the screen works great. For me, it's the ideal display for comfortable gaming throughout the day. That said, there is one issue with the screen: it somehow attracts all the dust in the air. If you leave the console sitting for a bit, you'll need to wipe the screen before playing again. I've never had this problem with any other console, not even the ROG Ally. I'm honestly worried that constantly wiping it might eventually scratch the surface, so I definitely recommend grabbing a screen protector right away. Alright, now let's talk about the Switch 2's biggest drawback: battery life. 2 hours of playtime. Is that too little? Most of you would probably say yes, and you'd be right. The Lite or OLED models definitely offer better battery life, but in my personal experience, it hasn't really been an issue. Let me explain. Since this isn't my first handheld console, I've gotten used to putting it on charge after every gaming session. It's a simple habit that develops quickly. Plus, I'm almost 40, and it's not easy for me to find time to game for more than 2 hours a day. On a good day, I might squeeze in 1 or 2 short 40-minute sessions. So in my case, the Switch 2 is always charged and ready to go. Even when I played on a train for about an hour and a half, the battery did not hit zero. And let's not forget, most trains these days have outlets next to your seat. Sure, I've had a couple of sessions that went past 2 hours and had to plug the charger into the console while playing, but even then it was totally fine. The Switch 2 has USB-C ports on both the top and bottom, so you can connect the charging cable in a way that doesn't get in the way. Still, I won't pretend battery life isn't a weak spot. I can already feel some of you getting ready to post angry comments, but in my specific case, I honestly can't complain. The battery life is more than enough for how I play. Now, let's talk about size. Yes, the Switch 2 is noticeably bigger than previous version, and it looks downright massive next to the Lite. But even so, it feels thinner and sleeker than the ROG Ally. But personally, I prefer the feel of the ROG Ally because of its thickness and grip comfort. It's just easier to hold for long sessions. But what really bugs me about the Switch 2 are those tiny rubber feet on the back, the ones it rests on when using the kickstand. These little rubber things dig into my fingers when I hold the console. Maybe it's just me, I don't know. But if you've had the same issue, let me know in the comments. Now, should you buy the Nintendo Switch 2 right now, or wait, or skip it entirely and hold out for the next version? Honestly, I don't have a clear answer, but I'd love to talk it through with you. If you're a die-hard Nintendo fan and you've got a budget and the urge to play Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong Bonanza, or revisit your favorite games with upgraded graphics and better performance, then I'd say yes, go ahead and grab it. If you've never owned a Switch or haven't played Nintendo games in a while and you're also interested in modern PC titles, then consider both the Switch 2 and other options like the ROG Ally or Steam Deck. Think about what games you want to play first. That should guide your decision. But I'll say this, for Nintendo exclusives, there is no better place to enjoy them than the Switch 2. If you're still unsure, I'd suggest waiting a few months. New games are on the way, and prices will likely drop a bit. I bought mine a month ago for 20 euros more than it costs now. And around Christmas, we might see better bundles, like the console plus the next Zelda game, which I think would be a much better combo than Mario Kart World. And if you're really put off by the lack of an OLED screen, then yeah, just wait for the next version. By then, you'll have more games to choose from, and maybe you can pick them up used or discounted. Personally, I have zero regrets about buying the Nintendo Switch 2. I'm already enjoying exclusive titles, and that's what matters most to me. Of course, this isn't my only console. Here is what my current lineup looks like, and these two have been my favorites lately. One last reminder, you can grab the Nintendo Switch 2 on AliExpress using the promo codes in the description box. I hope you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to the channel. I wish you pleasant nostalgia and successful completion of your favorite games.